Joining us tonight is Senator Rand Paul. Senator, good to have you with us. I want to compliment you for proceeding to help try to reform this FISA process. But first, if I may, your reaction to those names from the Obama White House, the Obama administration seeking the unmasking of General Flynn.
I think it's startling, it's troubling that the vice president would unmask a political rival. You know, we've had accusations in the past year, you may recall, of people saying, oh, you're using government to go after a political rival. Well, this sounds exactly like this with proof. Essentially, when you unmask someone, you're illegally listening. You're illegally having a wiretap on their conversation. So we may have had justification to listen to the foreign target, but when a foreign target is talking to an innocent American in the normal course of business, you're not supposed to unmask the American unless you have probable cause that they're involved in some sort of crime. In this case, there was never an allegation of that. So all of these unmaskers, I think, is sort of prurient. It's this excitement by the Obama people to say, what can we do to try to damage the incoming administration? So this is a great abuse of power, but it's what I've been talking about in general about FISA. FISA is intended to go after spies, foreigners, and terrorists. It should not be used to go after political opponents. And that's what they did. They weaponized FISA to go after President Trump. So my amendment tomorrow says you can't use the FISA court to go after campaigns or Americans. You go to a regular court. And as you know, you can get a warrant to listen to an American if you think they're doing something nefarious. You just go to a judge, and a lot of times it's granted. But then the person is notified at some point and can contest the warrants, and there's actually an adversarial process with lawyers on both sides. That doesn't happen in FISA, and I'm fine for foreigners to be in FISA, but I think American campaigns should not be investigated by a secret court.
Now, if there's any confusion amongst the agencies using FISA, the tip-off should be it's the Foreign Intelligence Court. It is not the Federal Intelligence Court. And you make a great point, and I think an important reform in your amendment. But I don't sense that there's a great stomach amongst the leadership of either the Republican Senate or the Democratic House to reform FISA. They want to be expedient. They want to act as if nothing happened here. They want to act as if this were a hoax against President Trump instead of an effort to overthrow a president.
It's the usual sleight of hand. Even Republicans who pretend to be the president's friend are defenders of the deep state. Many of them have been defenders for decades up here of the deep state. We've been wanting to reform it to make sure it doesn't abuse American civil liberties, but they're caught up in now saying, oh, we don't want President Trump to know this, but we got to figure out how to put forward a bill that never really fixes the problem, but pretends to fix the problem. And this is sort of a parlor game in Washington, that they'll put forward things that don't fix them. There are some good reforms. I voted for Senator Lee's reform today. I think it's a good reform, but none of it really prevents this from happening again. What happened to Carter Page could still happen even when this bill passes, and I think that's a travesty.
And the Chief Justice of the United States presiding over those FISA courts has been quiet and passive, and in my judgment, irresponsible, giving his responsibility for those courts. It would be nice to hear from him supporting Senator Rand Paul, supporting reform. It would be nice to see some courage on just in a few more pockets that extend beyond far too few representatives of the American people, including you, Senator Paul. Thank you for doing great work.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. You know, Devin Nunes will be on in a few minutes. When he sends a letter asking for information and they find out they've done something wrong, the court did nothing to reform it, sat on it, did fake reform, and then as it became more public, they finally admitted we've got to do more. But it took a whole lot of effort on the part of a lot of us to try to get them to even admit that they made a mistake and that there was malfeasance in the FISA court.
And very quickly, as we conclude here, Senator, Emmett Sullivan, the judge in Flynn's case, General Flynn's case, is now playing political games. Perhaps we shouldn't leave it just simply to reform of FISA, but reform of the politicized federal district court system. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't understand how a court can have a case without a prosecutor, so I've never heard of that. I guess a court could appoint a prosecutor, but that to me sounds like a judge not being a judge or not being impartial, but actually becoming part of the prosecution, and that's a really big mistake. So I hope that's not what's going to happen here.
Senator Rand Paul, we thank you very much, and we wish you all the best of luck as you move to reform a corrupted FISA court system. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you.